What's up, everybody? Welcome to your Daily Digest for Friday, May 9th, 2025, where I bring you fact-based, non-sensational, objective information. Today, we are kicking off with the SEC considering new rules that will ease security token issuance. In a speech published on May 8th by SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce, the regulator is considering a potential exemptive order for firms using blockchain technology to issue, trade, and settle securities that would release them from certain registration requirements. This is just a long line in a series of positive notes that have come out of the SEC, so keep your ears to the ground for future guidelines. In other news, Trump was tricked into pushing XRP that was going to be part of the digital asset reserve. Trump was purportedly manipulated by a lobbyist tied to Ripple Labs, Brian Ballard, who actually gave Trump reportedly a text that he would be able to post to social media where he was recommended to announce the U.S. crypto strategic reserve would include Ripple, Solana, and Cardano. After he posted the message on March 2nd, Trump learned that Ripple Labs was one of Ballard's clients, and this infuriated Trump because he felt like he'd been used and manipulated. Trump said he is not welcome in anything anymore, referencing Ballard. Moving on, yesterday, Democrats blocked support for the U.S. stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, going through Senate, which failed to pass cloture on May 8th. A lot of folks are disappointed in this because it was purportedly seen as a bipartisan effort. And as we've seen with the market structure bill walkout earlier this year, led by Representative Waters, and this now failure to reach cloture for the Genius bill, we're starting to see some divisions in the bipartisan nature of the current stablecoin and market structure bills going through Congress. But Blockchain Association CEO Kristen Smith said, while disappointed that the Genius Act did not pass its cloture vote today, we remain encouraged by the bipartisan engagement on this critical digital asset legislation. During the time when I went to DC in December of 2023, the divide wasn't necessarily between Democrats and Republicans, even though that's being painted as it is right now. It was more along the lines of boomers and everybody younger than them. So keep your ears to the ground for what happens there. The Unichain EVM L2 has surpassed Ethereum as its top chain for Uniswap version 4 by transaction volume. Unichain's dominance in V4 is also attributed to a $45 million liquidity incentive program, which drove activity in addresses and TVL. According to DeFi Llama, the Unichain is the third largest L2 rollup by TVL at $800 million. And as we can see here in this purple, that is the amount of market share that Unichain has been able to capture for Uniswap v4. Moving on, Superstate has unveiled Opening Bell, which will be a platform that tokenizes SEC-registered public shares or equities on-chain rather than trading a synthetic or a wrapped version. Superstate was among several firms to recently propose an SEC-backed framework to bring Wall Street stocks on to the blockchain. The platform will initially launch on Solana, but has plans to extend to Ethereum and others. In crime season, Alex Mashinsky, the disgraced CEO of the former Borrowland platform, custodial centralized platform, Celsius, has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for fraud. We are finally starting to see the wave of main actors and criminals from 2021 and 2022 get washed up and sent into the places where they belong for stealing hard-earned money from people who aren't necessarily accredited investors, and really just your everyday average retail investor who aren't as sophisticated as traditional accredited investors, which is largely why Mashinsky probably saw closer to 12 years rather than 3 because of the people he preyed on. Additionally, this one is just stupid. A US-based man sent $185,000 to ISIS in 2019. He's been sentenced to 30 years in prison, could possibly face more. And part of the issues for why, beyond sending money to a terrorist group, why this individual is also spending more time in jail is because he tried to flee the US during an FBI probe. He ended up taking money out of an ATM and then going to a Taco Bell where he paid someone to drive him to a relative's house, and then the relative drove him to a grocery store, and then he purchased a series of bus tickets, misspelling his name and using recently created email accounts, and then traveled from Virginia to Mexico to Guatemala, and then bought plane tickets from Guatemala to Panama, and then on to Germany, and then Egypt. But an Interpol Blue Notice was issued. He was caught and sent back to the US. Don't do crime, but even more importantly, don't send money to terrorist groups. Wrapping up, Meta is exploring stablecoin integration for payouts. Meta is, of course, the parent company for Facebook, and they want to integrate stablecoin payments into its platforms after a 3-year hiatus from cryptocurrencies. This is kind of ringing bells and making me laugh a little bit, because the whole reason why the United States government is even talking about crypto or stablecoins at all today can largely be tied to a pivotal point that happened about 3 years ago. And that was when Facebook, Meta, put forth the Libra coin, which later got termed Diem, which was going to be a basket of commodities and different currencies that backed a Facebook stablecoin. And Congress went nuts on Facebook. They didn't think that a centralized entity should be able to create a stablecoin. And that was largely what kicked off Congress and regulators and legislators actually caring about crypto and blockchain. That's just my speculation, but everything changed after Facebook started having its congressional hearings about the Libra stablecoin. And lastly, lots of people on Polymarket lost lots of money because the Pope, who's an American, was a 1% chance to win on Polymarket, and about $28 million in losses was experienced because people placed bets on candidates other than Prevost, the American. Largely why I think the Papal election was such a money-losing event for others, especially when we've seen prediction markets be very, very accurate when it comes to public elections. It's because there wasn't any insider information that was leaked. The 133 cardinals that voted on the Pope do so in a very tight-knit room where no information is able to get out. So one of the folks associated with Polymarket said it's like walking into a store that doesn't communicate with the outside world. Not even the participants themselves would probably know how to handicap it. So there you go. That is probably why there was such a rampantly wide market on this particular prediction market. That just about wraps up this week and today for the Daily Digest. If you appreciated what you saw, please head over to the Smart Economy Podcast subreddit, where you can keep up to date with all of our daily digests, our weekly spaces, and our bi-monthly podcasts. And with all that said, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time.